The name it and claim it manifestation is absolutely not what I agree with, and I actually think it can be dangerous. However, I am going to state that it's true that what we focus on will grow. So now that can be easily confused with name it and claim it, because if you need to speak the possibilities into existence, it doesn't mean it will happen. What needs to happen is if it's outside of your skill level or your ability to manage something, then those skills get to be practiced and enhanced through the best of yourself and finding your strengths. You can then find a path. Hey everybody, Jeff here. Before we get started, if you're getting value from the podcast, please take a moment to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. For those of you listening on podcast apps, don't forget to rate and review. Your support really helps the show reach more people, and for that I am truly grateful. Now let's dive in.
Welcome to The Point with Jeff Spikes, the show about achieving goals, embracing growth, and finding your true path. And now, here's your host, Jeff Spikes.
Hello and welcome to The Point. It's November and we're rounding the corner to Thanksgiving, the holiday of gratitude, the holiday of families coming together, a time of great joy or great stress. There's a wide spectrum of things that you and people you know and love are experiencing when we start entering this holiday season. Today, you're going to have the opportunity to consider how you're walking into that specifically in relationship to optimism, to forward thinking, and to challenging the status quo if you so choose. Imagine yourself walking into someone else's Thanksgiving dinner. You have no idea what you're going to find. There's limitless options of what might be happening on Thanksgiving for someone that you haven't met and that you don't know. And imagine yourself walking into that and being open to absolutely anything. Imagine who you would choose to be in the heart of hearts of who you are, regardless of the situation that you walk into. How do you maintain the energy level and the kindness level, the authenticity? Who would you walk in and be? Would you experiment with a new strategy? Would you try a new approach to life, to meeting people, to knowing, to learning about them? Would you stick with a strategy that you've used time and time again? Think about this. And as you think about this, really begin to make decisions on what you're going to choose this holiday system and this holiday time for you and this Thanksgiving. Because one of the things that we can do is we can try and forget everything we think we know. There's a prayer called the set aside prayer that I've heard 4 times in the last few weeks, at least. I mean, it seems to be a theme of it keep coming up and being discussed. And it's this idea of, please let me set aside everything I think I know about this. And it's literally come up in 4 separate situations, unrelated to each other, and on very different type of topics. But it's an interesting idea to set aside things we think we know. So the holidays are here. You're accustomed to something. If you have relatives you haven't seen in a while and you're going to see them again, who knows what they're going to come in like? Maybe they've made drastic changes. Maybe they haven't. But the idea is just for you to be open. The concept is to be in a place of openness and start considering things. Now, something's been brought to my attention and it's an interesting it's an interesting thing. I've been told from time to time, and since I was young, even, I'm going to disclose a little bit here to you. I've been told from time to time, get your head out of the clouds, get down to earth, get real. Now I'm also a Taurus. So if you believe in that kind of thing, I'm grounded to the earth. I'm rooted, whatever that means. Right. So that being said, I'm also told to get out of the cloud, get my head out of the clouds and quit dreaming. And one of the problems I had as a kid was that I would be daydreaming and thinking about all these possibilities of things. It kept me from anchoring into the disciplined work that needed to happen to do homework a certain way or classwork a certain way. And, so that's being a kid. But I've been told that for quite some time. I've been told that a few times lately as well, not in the same way, but In one instance, somebody asked a peer of mine, asked him about me and said, "Hey, tell me a little bit about this guy Spikes, man. Is he a name it and claim it kind of guy? Is he I think the term that they actually used was well, I don't remember exactly what term they used, but it was something to the effect of, is he someone that says you can just speak it and then it comes into existence?" That's what they said. No one knew how to answer that question in that moment, and I was excited that that question got asked, and one person was a little embarrassed that that question got asked because they didn't know how to respond to it. And of course, I said, I just wanted to know what he said. He goes, he said he just danced around the topic and said, well, I don't know, man. He's just got big goals and big ideas of how to do things. And you'd have to ask him about that. And in another situation, somebody asked me a similar question about what I really think about manifestation because they were frustrated with the intensely high level of goal that I was proposing or that I was putting up on a board to set as um, this top possibility. We were looking at a hockey stick and looking at growth, and we were saying, okay, on the top of this is this big number that was greater than 10 times the growth. And same thing. Let's not be unrealistic. And then another time, actually, just today, we were talking about optimism. And in the world of thinking about optimism, it is this idea of, come on now, let's get realistic. Like, I don't want to be too optimistic because optimism isn't realistic. And I always want to be prepared for what might be happening that is going to be bad, that's going to be a problem for me. If I get too optimistic, I then set expectations that are unrealistic, right? So, this is what was being shared with me around the idea of optimism with the concept of that I'm too lofty or in the air with goals. Realizing that this might be a way that I speak because I am fairly consistently pushing boundaries and pushing the edge of people's thoughts in a positive way. I don't even want to make it about positive, in a forward way, something that would be forward and outside of the realm of reach of what we consider. Now, let's talk about that as a belief and a concept. The name it and claim it manifestation is something that is absolutely not what I agree with or think is based in a form of reality. And I actually think it can be dangerous. I'm not going to make an argument with you or anyone else as to whether or not it's true or not true that we can name it and claim it. However, I am going to state that it's true that what we focus on will grow. So now that can be easily concerned or easily confused with name it and claim it, right? Because if you need to speak the possibilities into existence so that our minds will open to it, that doesn't mean it will happen. What needs to happen in that is if it's outside of your skill level or your ability to manage something, then those skills get to be practiced and enhanced. And through the best of yourself and finding and utilizing your strengths, you can then find a path to whatever that is. And if it's unimaginable to you today, making it unimaginable and connecting to that emotionally doesn't necessarily help manifest it without any work or without any effort, but it can help allow your mind and the unconscious, ever connected part of you begin to do the work in the realm of the world that we can't necessarily see all the time and don't have a great understanding of. Quantum sciences have been in the types of quantum sciences have been increasing in the last number of years, and that's because we're beginning to understand more and more about the overall interconnectedness of things. And when this somewhat rudimentary idea of manifestation and affirmations first came to function, it it was rudimentary to from what we know today, and it was the best we could do at the time. And it wasn't wrong necessarily. It just could be dangerous, right? So, what we know today is that if you have emotions, it seems like an invite to ignore them if we need to speak something into existence, right? So there's some real incongruencies with some of these ways of thinking. And let's shore this up because it's important for you that this gets shored up and that you begin to understand these things. One thing that we know that's clear about this topic is that there are things that seem completely opposite that are true, and we can't always make sense of that. It won't compute in your mind. Quantum is a great idea of that. Quantum is the study of in meaning. If you look it up in Webster's dictionary, I even think we should look that up really quick. And I'm just gonna do that on the fly here. And of course, there's chemistry and physics and all these things. So quantum, and this is from the American Heritage Dictionary of the English Language, the fifth edition. The smallest amount of a physical quantity that can exist independently, especially a discrete quantity of electromagnetic radiation. So, number two is this amount of energy regarded as a unit, and it's also a quantity or an amount, and it's a noun in this meaning. Well, the smallest amount of physical quantity that can exist independently is kind of the core of the concept here in thinking that what is the smallest measurable quantity, the thing, the smallest particle that can be measured, has been found to be identical in all things, pointing to pointing scientists and theorists and other people to consider the similarities in all things at its smallest particle level. And what does that mean as all of these particles come together and how we then appear different? So the measurement of the smallest unit became a consideration of this universal, amazing mass of connectedness of all things. There's one of those ideas that seems separate and different. Some of these things just cannot yet be understood with our physical brain, with our mind and the way that it works. And it doesn't have the logic or the sense to what we know today. We start looking at other teachings that say that, you know, the only truth is a specific truth and that it's only good and love and that it's that we can't always fathom in our mind, although many people believe that. So we started talking about, you started considering the idea of walking into an unknown Thanksgiving, and who would you choose to be in that moment? Well, if there's an interconnectedness of all things, and if we are somehow connected to all things, and if we're uniquely and amazingly special in how we were made, right? So the idea that you were born infinite and taught limitation. So if in your most natural self you are infinite in possibility and you are absolutely unique in purpose and mission and message and way of being, just like everyone else, right? Then that means everyone else is also that unique. It shifts a little bit of the idea of trying to fit in or trying to be something for anyone else. And it starts to be that the most selfless thing that we can actually do, the most selfless thing that you can do is to be the most authentic version of yourself in any situation you walk into. So if you could imagine what that looks like in an environment you've never walked into, then you could imagine walking into an environment you've been in frequently over and over, or that you're going back into that you haven't been in a while, or a brand new environment that's just a new environment to you that you do think you know about, right? Because it's familiar and it's with people you just haven't had that opportunity to have that holiday with them. So all of these possibilities of what you could be walking into, the best, the most amazing thing, the most selfless thing that you can do is just to be your best version of yourself. Be the most authentic and honest version of yourself. Of course, that means be kind, right? We get into the discussion about what integrity is and kindness and all these other things, and we think about these things as a moral aspect, and we don't always consider the integrity and kindness and these other things as how they either build up or tear things down. So, an over amount of kindness and inauthentic kindness just to be kind, that it ends up not being authentic, can be damaging, and it can break down the integrity structurally of a relationship or of an energy in a room with many people. So just like integrity being honesty and ethics in doing the right thing in a moral code can also be executed in a way that diminishes and breaks down a relationship or a society. So let's remember that as you move forward in this conversation. And now we start thinking about the name it or claim it and what happens. The idea of manifesting through our words, saying it and having it come into fruition is not entirely wrong. It's just a small piece of a puzzle that, if done independently, without connectedness to anything else, can be damaging and is probably not accurate and can be considered very um, stupid. It's what I was told, or ridiculous, or certainly not recommended. And it can set us up for expectations that are unrealistic. However, using our words and in our internal words and our voice and our how we speak words into others and into relationships, we absolutely can use those words to create things that wouldn't have been created otherwise, which is a manifestation. And we can affect things in each other. We can elicit responses from others and how we speak. So therefore, we can speak things into reality. I think what people are saying when they talk about this is this person really realistic or not? And where we want to, where you want in this ideation to anchor and set the difference is really in executing on what you believe. How do I demonstrate that? How do I move forward in a way that puts action towards that so that there's an opportunity for that to happen? Because one without the other isn't realistic. To just say, "Oh, I can change this entire country into whatever it is I want," right? To do that without putting any substance towards it or putting any framework that would create a possibility of change is then therefore unrealistic. So, however, speaking these things can create the creative energy to then create some change agents, some things that make possibilities grow. In Tag, uh, Tag Inc., where I'm working with the team and I'm part of the team, and we're serving healthcare, supply chain, and finance teams. Tag has been doing this. John Weiss, the founder and CEO, has been doing this for over 36 years. He started in 1988. And it's clear that this is the group that they support. And I've said in the recent past, and I believe this firmly, having a history and a background of supply chain, I entered the workforce in supply chain and stayed there for quite a while till I added facilities, and then joined went down more of a facilities role with Starbucks, where we still were working a lot with vendors and managing vendors and doing contract negotiations. And all of these things put me in this place of passion, of understanding that a lot of the work groups that are making things happen behind the scenes, right? Because when you walk into a store and buy something, it's there and it's available. You don't always necessarily think about everything that it took, including the raw materials of it, or if it's agricultural, the turning of the earth and the planting of the seeds and the growing and the heart, all of those things. You don't always think about or connect all of that process. So you're just going to the store, whatever store that is, taking something off the shelf and then going and paying for it. So the people working behind the scenes that do everything that's needed to get those things up to the shelf, I believe and have always believed that working with that group of people is the number one place to drive some of the most significant change if you're trying to change something from its foundation. If you're trying to have a full, thorough, holistic change process, it's important to start with that foundation so that everything has to grow from. So the concepts that you get to work with in this framework of quantum strengths and designing strengths, we always have a goal and a place that we are moving towards. You always have a goal that you're wanting to achieve or reach, that you have in your sights, that is either realistic to you and simple, and it's a very short-term goal, or it's overreaching and something that stretches you in your imagination and your thoughts. But you have these goals. And the reason for having them is not to focus on that. The reason for having them is so that you have clarity of value, vision, and purpose, and you can then enjoy the moment knowing knowing where you're on your way to. And you can begin to enjoy the process of getting there. And just because at that point you can think of as if you're there already, and what does that embody in the appreciation of the activities that you're performing? So it becomes this idea of yes, and it becomes a clarity of purpose and vision where both are important. We don't ever want to stay only future focused. We really don't want to become entirely past focused, right? I'll let you take the time to sit down and think about all of the people in the world that are saying, let's not do those two things as our primary way of being. And how many people are talking about learning to live in the moment and appreciate the moments. And we're walking into Thanksgiving that weekend, in the next week and a half, or in the next week. This is Thanksgiving. You want to be able to appreciate the moments of Thanksgiving you're in, no matter what that situation is, no matter who you're with or not with. If you're alone, I've had Thanksgivings where I was solo and I'd travel or I'd go hiking. I've had Thanksgivings full of family that was my family. And I've had Thanksgivings full with other people's families. I've had Thanksgivings with communities of people. You are going to have the Thanksgiving you're going to have. Think about that, consider that, and know that the idea is to appreciate the moment, and the mentality, the ideations around Thanksgiving are to experience and express a deep sense of gratitude for everything that you do have within you and around you. So no matter what that is, it's having that level of thankfulness and gratitude, and it's learning. And this is an entire day of expression and appreciation and of thanksgiving, right? Of gratitude without a better understanding of where we've come from. And I think that is today, I believe that's what I want less of than more of. I don't really want to remember all of the memories of the past. I don't want to remember all of the deep situations. I just want to remember the ones that are important to remember to keep me in a solid emotional frame. And the things that might knock me out of a resourceful emotional frame and might knock me off of my balance, so to speak, are things that I only want to take the lessons from. I only want to learn those lessons and carry forward the lessons. I want to have more of a lesson than a memory, because I can be resourceful with the lesson and not repeat whatever it was that created what I think was a bad memory that caused a lack of resourcefulness. You're walking into this Thanksgiving. Really consider deeply about what this is and think about the importance for you to have this higher overarching goal. If you've been watching or listening and you've been coming along in this process, you've been evaluating your whole year and you've got an idea of what you've done. And you've got an idea of how you're spending this next month to walk into the new year with already prepared and already moving forward with any goals that you have set. So if you're new, this is the idea I would offer you, is that instead of waiting until January to go to the gym and focus on six-pack abs or losing 50 pounds or 20 pounds or whatever it is, start now. What can you do now to not make it worse? Because the other way to it is just throw it all out the window and let it get as bad as it needs to get in the next month. And then I'll deal with it in January, which is not a way to succeed. That's a way to set yourself up for something else. The mass majority of New Year's resolutions are a preconceived notion of failure, because we're waiting for an opportunity to start something, hoping it will work this time. Now, if that doesn't fit you in New Year's resolutions or resolutions in general as your way of moving forward and it works for you, do not let this take you off your path, and stick to that and share that, because that's part of your uniqueness and part of what makes you special. But then also don't put that strategy on others that it doesn't work for, and acknowledge that that's your ninja. if everyone ultimately is reaching the same ideation of achieving what they've set forth to achieve, attaining the goal, gaining or losing or changing a behavior, let that be the process, that everyone's doing it within their own giftings and with their own strengths and getting to that end goal. Understanding who you are on the biggest level in the biggest picture, believing you can make a major change in the universe, believing that you can affect something much bigger than yourself, really is only there to guide some of the principles you live in within today. I'm going to lay down one more example of that to set some understanding of how this works. If you are in your late teens, early 20s, and if you aren't, and you're older than, you've passed that, and you can remember being in that time of your life, and you're someone who wants to be married, you want to be in union with another being, human being, become one with them and live a life with them, and you want to have a big family. We were just working on a project of in an organization of learning what everyone in the organization really wanted individually, so that people get to know each other better. And there were a handful of young people that were like, I want to have a thriving family with 5 or 6 kids. Someone else was 3 kids. Someone else was there were a couple of different numbers of children they wanted. Someone else wanted an amazing relationship with their significant other where they traveled and did mission work. They had this plan of what they were going to give and how they were going to give in these different ways. And it was very creative. They had these great ideas of what they were going to do. If you want that type of union with one person, and you for whatever reason that is, and that's your highest overarching big goal, there's a couple ways to think about that. But certainly that's going to change the decisions you make on the daily to attract that person. Now, some people go about the way of, well, I'll meet that person or I won't, and it'll happen when it happens. And that's an unintentional way to move forward. And that might or might not give you the results you're looking for. But if you are clear and you set your sights on that highest overarching goal, and you start thinking about what it will be like when you're retiring with that person, because that person's meant to be your forever person. Now, again, this is just an analogy. This is just almost a metaphor of understanding something to help understand this idea of why we have these ridiculous, what other people might see as ridiculous statements you make about how big the vision is that you have, which is not a ridiculous idea. Because if you want to be bound and connected with someone in that way, and you want to be into those older ages and be with one person, and you intentionally go after it, that could and intentionally is the word, that can drastically change your behavior today. If you're unintentional, it may not. You might say, well, I'm going to get out having a relationship with as many people as I can, as quick as I can, and just have a ton of fun and get it out of my system. Well, if that's not what you want in life, what do you have to get out of your system? What is that thinking about, right? So having that goal, and maybe that's an opportunity to get honest with ourselves that, well, this is what I want here. And this is my highest overarching goal in this realm. I want to experience these things before I settle down with that person, or before I start a family, or before I go on these trips, because I want to jump from rooftops and swim in oceans and do all these things just myself without other people. And I want that to include a lot of fun and friends and other things. So, okay, that's all, that you can have a lot of relationships and do those things. But again, it could change the decisions you make. Because it's based on the values you need to achieve that and to attract the right person to do those things. That can help you for yourself begin to consider the reason why you might want to take a risk and go ahead and have the highest goal you can and say the disruptive things you need to say that can create the change in the world that you're looking to create, and allow people to question where you're really coming from. Because if you're like me and you're ready to back it up with action, and you're ready to get down and get into creating and developing and enjoying life in a way where you're bringing more people together to that in ways that will help you and others achieve that goal and make that change and make the thing that you're desiring happen, then you're absolutely going to win people over. And having people question you is going to be one of the greatest things you could ever imagine. So over the next week or two, as you go into Thanksgiving, it's an opportunity to consider who you are. Prepare to be grateful, and not just who you are here, but who you are in your life and who you are in your legacy. And right now, if you're in a moment of just wanting to relax and have fun and enjoy things without worrying about that, make advantage of that time to let go and relax into the moment. But know when you come back to a forward moving ideation of designing who you are and getting back to that innately wonderful and infinitely made person, that the idea still is to have this as high of a thing as you can imagine so that it centers you on the values that are required to get there. Because then you can design the behaviors that knock out all the stuff that might take you off track. And you get to really evaluate what you really truly want. And don't ever be worried if that begins to change or shift, because that sometimes can change. And then you get to adjust the plan and adjust the daily behaviors based on those changes. But an anchored, solid, well-developed vision of possibilities is absolutely not a name it and claim it air flighty thing to do. It is an anchor of successful thinking, and it's an absolute, it's a bellwether. It's a directional force that will keep you moving where you want to go. Today, that is the point. I really, I believe, a critical point from the depth of my heart as you walk into this Thanksgiving. If you're going to be around a lot of other people and enjoying that Thanksgiving, prepare yourself to let go of all these things and live in the moment, embrace and learn more, and really connect and listen to the people that you know and love and that you get to be with. And if you get to be with yourself, let that be a beautiful thing of being thankful for your own inner relationship and the relationships that you have that are going to strengthen you and anchor you to be able to move forward in your own way. So that's the point. Have a beautiful, wonderful, happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next time.
The show about achieving goals.
Thank you for joining us for another amazing episode of The Point with me, Jeff Spikes. Please visit jeffspikes.com for everything you would need to know to engage with me offline. And lastly, thank you for your time, your attention, and your consideration. This is The Point.
About achieving